After a 5-month closure of the Nigerian airspace to scheduled international flights due to the lockdown occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic, foreign travel has resumed in the country as an aircraft operated by Middle East Airlines touched down at the Muritala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. On arrival, passengers presented their documents, including mandatory COVID-19 PCR test results for screening by the Port Health Services officials. Our background report begins outside the shores of Nigeria as other countries open up international borders.
Many nations across the globe are reopening airports, removing curfews and slowly resuming international tourism. And as this happens, the World Health Organization says it is crucial that governments take effective measures to mitigate the risk of a surge in infections due to the resumption of commercial flights and airport operations. Starting in China, the first direct international flight to Beijing since March the 23rd landed at its international airport on September the 3rd. The first flight is Air China Flight CA747 from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. A negative COVID-19 test result is necessary before boarding. According to the Civil Aviation Administration of China, direct flights to Beijing from Thailand, Cambodia, Pakistan, Greece, Denmark, Austria, Sweden and Canada, all of which pose a low risk of cross-border infection, will be resumed. A special terminal at a T3D has been modified to accommodate these flights and passengers. And after complete customs clearance, inspection, nucleic acid testing and other works, passengers will be transferred to designated locations for a 14-day medical observation.
Now closing at gate A8.
From China to Britain, where 7 Greek islands have been added to England's quarantine list. Passengers arriving from Lesbos, Tinos, Serifos, Mykonos, Crete, Santorini and Zakynthos will now have to quarantine for 14 days upon arrival in England, beginning from Wednesday, September the 9th. Britain's Transport Minister made the announcement in Parliament as part of a new, more detailed quarantine policy, which allows different rules to be applied to different islands within states.
That the policy will not necessarily open up additional islands immediately. For example, when we removed Spain from the travel corridor list, there were 24 cases per 100,000. Today, there are 127 cases, and it remains too high in the Balearic and Canary Islands as well. On the other hand, Greece remains within our travel corridor programme, but our new analysis shows that some of the islands are well outside of the parameters. Indeed, despite overall Greek infection levels being lower than ours, Scotland has already felt compelled to add the entirety of Greece, including the mainland, to the quarantine. Quarantine combined with testing is more promising. So we are working actively on the practicalities of using testing to release people from quarantine earlier than 14 days.
Still in Britain, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has justified the UK's decision not to initiate testing for COVID-19 at airports, a measure used by a number of countries including Germany and Norway, saying it only works in 7% of the cases. Johnson made the comments while touring a construction site for the HS2 high-speed rail project.
First of all, I understand the difficulties that the airline industry has been going through. I know how tough it is, particularly for people who are facing the potential loss of their jobs in the aviation sector. We're going to do everything, we'll continue to do everything we can to help, to put our arms around every part of British business, large and small. As you know, we've already put 40 billion into the furlough scheme, 160 billion altogether supporting business in our country. We will do more to support aviation. The particular problem is that if everybody thinks you can have some test at the airport that will answer whether you've got it or not. Unfortunately, it only works in 7% of the cases. So 93% of the time, you could have a real false sense of of security, false sense of confidence when you arrive and take a test. And that's why the quarantine system that we have has got to be an important part of our repertoire, of our toolbox in fighting COVID.
Now to Africa, where more borders are also reopening. Egypt is top, as it reopened borders for tourism to seaside resorts July the 1st, and travelers are required to wear a mask on the flight and in the airport, fill out a health declaration card, show proof of travel health insurance, agree to have the temperature taken on arrival. At this point, travelers are expected to remain in high tourist areas and are not permitted to travel independently inwards throughout the country. Nigeria's airports were closed since March the 23rd due to the pandemic. At that point, only essential business travel was permitted. Similarly, Ghana had shut its borders 2 days earlier on March the 21st. While both countries have reopened to international travelers since the COVID-19 situation seems to have stabilized, there is a lot of caution as several protocols and safety measures have been put in place to ensure that passengers are safe. September the 5th, here in Nigeria, Lebanon-bound passengers going through boarding processes for a commercial flight as the Murtala Mohammed International Airport reopens. While on lockdown, the airport processed 192 evacuation and special flights and 1,404 cargo flights.
5 months and 13 days of closure, and after 1 or 2 postponements, the D-Day has finally come. And the most important thing is we are well prepared.
The Middle East Airline's aircraft descends into Lagos. As it taxis to a stop, the passengers deplane through the E-gate and officials of the airport authority guide the passengers.
It's a good one. It arrived, landed around 2:05 with 222 passengers with 15 crew. And all of them, you can see the facilitation was hitch-free, and everything is just as planned. Everything is going smoothly.
Arrival at the boarding gate, passengers presented their document, including COVID-19 PCR test results, for screening by the Port Health Services officials. While some had issues with the payment portal, some passengers say the portal is active.
It was easy. It was not bad. It was quite straightforward. No, I had it by email. It was sent by, the invoice was sent by email, yes.
Definitely, I will do the test, of course, but we have to do the test before departing and once we arrive, wherever you go. Even if it is not required, it is a personal must, irrespective of the country regulation.
Others are glad to be back to Nigeria.
I'm coming back to school after 2 weeks of quarantine, and then I'll go to school. I like Nigeria most because here I have more friends than Lebanon. I've been in this country for 6 years.
It is very good. The way they executed, the social distancing, the cleanliness, everything is very lovely. It's very good. No, I'm going to resume back normal life, go to work, everything will be back to normal.
The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria is asking departing passengers to arrive at the airport on time and proceed to the B and C gates demarcated for passengers.
On our interview segment, the Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Musa Nuhu, assesses international flight resumption and adds that the high cost of tickets is purely a commercial issue. There is more from him.
Most of them have complied. They had a few hitches here and there that people did not comply with, but it's not their fault. Some people did their tests earlier on before they came, and unfortunately, because the validity of the test is now 96 hours expired, so they had to do a retest. But nothing significant. I'll say compliance has largely been complied, has been met with. Airlines that have put restrictions on Nigeria put restrictions on. That's the policy. government policy decision that was taken at the presidential task force level, and it's the only body that can review that policy. But probably there'll be some discussions with the embassies and how things go. Then the presidential task force will come out with a position on that. And also at this point, I'd like to make it clear, some of the airlines that were not allowed to operate in Nigeria had nothing to do with the issue of restrictions in Nigeria. They just needed to comply with the regulations of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority for foreign airlines operating into Nigeria. Some have already done that. So hopefully in the next couple of days, when they are ready to start, they'll be approved to resume operations into Nigeria. It's a bit of difficult. The air tickets, commercial issues with the airlines, and the restriction to 200 passengers is to have to be able to control the amount of people that fly into Nigeria on a daily basis, because we have been given a limit of 1,280 passengers daily for Lagos and the same for Abuja Airport. So if we don't restrict the number of passengers each airline carries and the number of flights that come into either airport daily basis, will not be able to control, still within the limits of the number of daily passengers given to us by the PTF. There are certain logistics being put on ground, certain infrastructure to be put in the airports, namely Kano, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. And also they need to have some clinics within those cities that are certified to carry the COVID-19 tests. Once that is done, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, operations will gradually start at those 3 other international airports. Well, it's not a local issue, it's an international standards. Crews are allowed to lay over for up to 48 hours, but they'll be restricted to their hotels, expected to stay in their hotel rooms for that period. That's international standard. It's not a local thing. That's the global international standards, and that's what we assist the airlines comply with. And so far, so good. Quite a majority of the airlines come and turn back. Just a few that do overnight stay for 24 hours, and they leave the following day. So not much of a problem. And the domestic, nothing much. So far, so good. It's been a pleasant surprise. The level of compliance of the health protocols put in place for the, although it's not all the approved airlines that have resumed operations, some will resume a couple of days down the road. So we are good to go. We only had British Airways, Middle East Airlines, and Emirates and Ethiopian. But over the next couple of days, we'll see an increase in the number of approved airlines operating into Nigeria. And hopefully within the next few weeks, within a short period of time, we'll be able to increase the number of authorized passengers that will be allowed to fly into Nigeria.
Newsflash is next after the break. Do join us again. As borders reopen in the country, international flights into Nigeria should pay some form of taxes for development as a means of shoring up revenue for government. This is coming from the managing director of Medview Airlines. He believes this is one way foreign governments make money from international passengers.
To collect on every single passenger going outside the kingdom, that's United Kingdom, we pay £75 and another £150 for business class. And restrict airline to come, not to come. We can just tell you one thing. Ethiopian Airline have 5 airports in Nigeria today. They fly Lagos, they fly Abuja, they have Kaduna, they have Enugu, and I'm sure they have Kano. So those people in those areas, the good side of it is that Nigerians should have encouraged them to use 3 airports, particularly 3 international airports, Lagos, Abuja, Kano. So that whoever is in the north, we drop it for them in Kano. Whoever in the middle belt or whether you drop it for them in Abuja. And the last one, we should drop it for them in Lagos. I think we can restrict them to 2, 3. I think that is the maximum people can fly into our country. I don't want a situation. So we should be cautious of those areas.
Still on border reopening, the Alausa command of the Nigerian Immigration Service says it's back in business. The command says that the COVID-19 preventive guidelines is now a critical part of its operations as instructed by the Controller General Mohammed Babandede, with strict compliance with social distancing, wearing of face masks and the use of hand sanitizers. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Immigration Service Interpol desk or units in the headquarters in Abuja has successfully uploaded about 15,000 stolen and lost travel documents to Interpol Global System in Lyon, France. The integration, according to Interpol Police Global System, is the first in Africa and 54th in the world. On the foreign scene, Los Angeles International Airport workers have held a dying protest at the airport to call for healthcare benefits to be extended for people who lost their jobs at the airport amid the coronavirus pandemic. According to the labor union Unite Here, which organized the protest, the union said the airport's two largest concessionaires have not made any additional aircare payments for their laid-off employees. Wizz Air said it will sharply reduce weekly flights to and from Hungary from Monday, September 7. This is coming after government announced it will ban the entry of foreigners to try to rein in the coronavirus outbreak. Hungary said it will close borders to foreigners from September the 1st to curb a rise in infections, and Hungarians returning from abroad will have to go into quarantine. Wizz Air said in a statement that it would operate 32 flights per week between September 7 and 30, down from around 126 flights in early September. The airline said only the most popular routes will be offered. The low-cost airline, which in recent years has expanded from Eastern into Western Europe, has been one of the fastest airlines to recover from the COVID-19 crisis. AirAsia Group BHD is looking to raise as much as $601 million by year-end and is also reviewing its operations in Japan as the airline seeks to weather the coronavirus pandemic impact on its business. The group chief executive officer, Tony Fernandez, said that the group could raise up to $360 million from bank loans and another $240 million from investors.
It's the same thing that I've been saying, that it's progressing quite well, and it's a mixture of debt and equity, and my target is 2.5 billion ringgit, and I see no reason why that won't be met, but yeah, I can't add too much more from that.
While it's hoping that its investments would include private equity players, strategic partners, as well as conglomerates, both local and foreign, it's also evaluating its operations in Japan.
I mean, I think Japan is something we have to really think hard about. You know, if we had tons of cash, then it's something we would probably continue. But right now, is it better to invest in ASEAN or Japan? It better be in ASEAN. So we're evaluating, and at a certain stage we'll make announcements.
As for long-haul arm, AirAsia exits pending aircraft orders. The group says it's discussing with Airbus to restructure its order book. The Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, is West Africa's foremost aviation training institution where pilots, air traffic controllers, aircraft maintenance engineers, and several aviation specialists hone their trade. According to authorities, the college has failed to live up to its expectations due to poor funding.
A lot of changes have happened to this college, and that is why the government embarked on the process of amendment to this act. As you know, we are a government institution, so we are subjected to budgetary constraints, and also aviation is a fast-changing industry. There are always new innovations in the industry, and for our staff and students to be able to keep up, we need to keep upgrading our facilities and training equipment.
While the bill to give it autonomy has gone through second reading in the National Assembly, it still requires speedy passage.
We'll look at it and then we'll call for a robust public hearing, and then we will look at what we believe will be beneficial to the college and the country at large, and then proceed on that basis.
Over the years, the institution has been churning out best hands in piloting. One of them is the outgoing chief flying instructor, Captain Ojugbani Achimogo.
There's no way we will have aviation without safety, because that is the paramount thing. You know, it's not about leaving point A to point B. It's how well, you know. And aviation is something that is a profession that you can't talk about it without emphasizing on safety. Let me just give you a small example. If you are driving your car and the car has any problem, you're on ground, you can park, but you are going into the air, and whatever goes up must come down.
Still on the college, this time partnerships. The Accident Investigation Bureau says both agencies are collaborating both on curriculum and training for investigators.
We've drawn up a curriculum from Cranfield University, Singapore Training Institute, and NCAT, Nigerian College of Aviation Technology. So we want to make it a world-class institution. Is another income where we would like to earn money. So of course we are, as a responsible agency of government, looking for ways on how we can improve our funding position. Thank you.
The recent helicopter accident in Lagos broke Nigeria's 5-year record of non-fatal air accidents. Irregular migration and curbing human trafficking once more has come to the fore. That's why the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has inaugurated a 20-member task force team to tackle the issue in the state. At the ceremony, the Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, Dame Oka Donley, said over 1,000 indigents of Lagos have been rescued in the last 16 years.
Another worrying trend is the trafficking of young Nigerian women to the Middle East, especially Lebanon, Oman, Saudi Arabia, UAE. Between March and August 2020, NAPTIP, with the collaboration of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nigerian Embassy in Lebanon, facilitated the repatriation of 355 young women from domestic and sexual servitude in Lebanon. From 2004 to 2020, a total of 1,535 indigents of Lagos State have been rescued by NAPTIP and her partners. Human trafficking represents a clear and present danger to human and national security, which must be addressed boldly and frontally.
That's all we have for you on the program. It's goodbye from the crew here. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bukola Jo Oketumbi.